The Wyoming plains were known for many things: wide skies, stubborn cattle, and winters that showed no mercy to those foolish enough to underestimate them. But on this particular night, the land seemed determined to prove that nature always had the final say. The wind roared across the open fields like an angry beast unleashed from the mountains, dragging thick walls of snow behind it. Visibility dropped so low that even the moonlight disappeared into the white chaos swirling across the prairie. Most ranchers had already locked their doors hours earlier, adding extra logs to their fires and praying their livestock would survive until morning. But Caleb Turner was still outside. Caleb had lived alone on his modest ranch for nearly 15 years, ever since he inherited the land from his father. The ranch wasn't the biggest, nor the most profitable, but it was his. Every fence post, every barn beam, every scar in the soil carried the mark of his labor. He believed a man should stand by his land the same way the land stood by him. That was why he was riding through the storm now, hunched over the saddle of his loyal gray mare Daisy, checking the north fence line one last time before returning home. The lantern hanging from his saddle swayed violently in the wind, its weak yellow light barely cutting through the swirling snow. Caleb pulled his coat tighter around his shoulders. Just a little farther, he muttered to Daisy, though he wasn't sure whether he was encouraging the horse or himself. The wind answered him with another furious howl. Snow blasted sideways across the plains, stinging his face like needles. The temperature had dropped sharply within the last hour, turning every breath into a cloud of frost. Even Caleb had to admit this storm was becoming dangerous. He turned Daisy toward the direction of his ranch house, preparing to head back before things got worse. But then something caught his eye. At first, it looked like nothing more than a shadow against the snow, a strange shape barely visible through the blizzard. Caleb squinted. The shape moved. He immediately pulled Daisy to a stop. His instincts sharpened. Out here in the middle of a storm like this, there were only a few things that could appear on the trail. None of them were good. Carefully, he guided Daisy closer. The wind shifted briefly, clearing the snow just enough for him to see. A horse lay on the ground. The animal struggled weakly, its dark coat nearly hidden beneath layers of snow. Its sides heaved as it fought for breath, exhaustion weighing heavily on its body. "Easy now," Caleb murmured as he slid off his saddle. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle the injured animal. But as he brushed snow away from its neck, his eyes widened. There were saddlebags and reins, which meant the horse wasn't alone. Caleb's heart skipped a beat as he looked around. Then he saw her. Just a few feet away, half buried in snow, lay a woman. Her dark hair spread across the frozen ground like spilled ink. Her coat, once expensive and well-made, was now stiff with ice. One arm was curled under her body, while the other lay limp in the snow. She wasn't moving. For a terrifying moment, Caleb feared the worst. He rushed to her side, dropping to his knees. "Miss?" he called, brushing snow from her face. Her skin was pale, far too pale, but then her lips trembled. A faint breath escaped her. Alive. Barely. Caleb exhaled in relief. "Hang on," he said quietly. The blizzard roared louder, as if reminding him how little time they had left. He gently lifted her shoulders. Her head rolled weakly against his arm. She was unconscious. Snow continued piling around them, and Caleb knew the truth immediately. If he didn't get her out of this storm within the next hour, she would freeze to death. There was no time to think. Caleb carried her carefully to Daisy and lifted her onto the saddle, securing her with a rope so she wouldn't fall. He then returned to the fallen stallion. The horse tried to stand but collapsed again. Caleb cursed under his breath. He hated leaving animals behind, but the storm was only getting worse. "I'll come back if I can," he promised quietly, patting the horse's neck. The animal snorted weakly. With one last glance, Caleb climbed onto Daisy and turned toward his ranch. The journey back felt endless. The storm had erased the trail completely, forcing Caleb to rely on memory and instinct. Snow piled deeper with every passing minute, slowing Daisy's pace. More than once, Caleb feared they might lose their way entirely. But Daisy kept moving, and Caleb refused to stop. Finally, Through the storm's white curtain, a familiar shape appeared. His cabin. Relief washed over him. He rode straight to the door, dismounted, and lifted the unconscious woman into his arms. The cabin door slammed shut behind them as he stepped inside. Warmth surrounded them instantly. The fire in the wood stove still burned strong, casting golden light across the small room. Caleb laid the woman gently on his bed. Her fingers were stiff from the cold. Her breathing remained shallow. Working quickly, he removed her frozen coat and boots, wrapping her in thick blankets before placing a kettle of water on the stove. Minutes passed. The storm battered the cabin walls, while Caleb warmed her hands between his own. Then finally, she stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open. For a moment, confusion filled her gaze as she looked around the unfamiliar room. Then her eyes landed on Caleb. He offered a calm smile. "You're safe," he said. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "Where am I?" "My ranch. Found you out in the storm." She blinked slowly, as if trying to piece together fragments of memory. "My horse." "Alive when I left him," Caleb replied. "Storm was too strong to bring him back tonight." She looked relieved but exhausted. Her eyes studied Caleb carefully. Perhaps she was wondering whether she could trust him. Finally, she nodded slightly. "Thank you." Then sleep claimed her again. Caleb leaned back in his chair beside the bed, watching the flames flicker in the stove. Outside, the blizzard continued raging across the plains. But inside the cabin, everything had become strangely quiet. Caleb had no idea who the woman was, no idea where she had come from, and certainly no idea that the stranger sleeping under his blankets owned the largest ranch in the entire territory. By the time morning arrived, his simple life would begin to change forever.